Greetings, Lux lovers. Welcome back. Here we believe in intentional luxury and we're not afraid to invest in pieces that will work for us. So if that resonates with you, then please consider subscribing and stay a while. Well, by now I've shared what seems to be a 2-month-long stretch of Paris content. And you know what? We're gonna keep that train going. So now we can bask in the glow of these 3 beauties, and I'd like to share basically a recap of everything that happened over the course of my 3 days in Paris in one video, not 8. And also give my experience and my theories regarding the Hermès lottery and leather appointment system in Paris. And I'll share with you how I got 3 mini bags in 3 days. And if you're just joining us for the first in this recap and summary, feel free to get caught up using my Paris wish list, which I'll link up here and below. So grab your fancy Hermès mugs and get settled in because this video is gonna be chatty AF. So let's begin. So I planned my trip to take a red eye from the US on a Sunday night so that I could arrive to Paris on a Monday morning. I knew I couldn't apply to the lottery system from the US, so I figured that the Sunday break would result maybe in some cancellations on Monday morning, and potentially from people not realizing that they were actually closed on a Sunday. So I arrived, checked into my hotel, changed, and made a beeline to the FSH store. My plan was to go straight to the fine jewelry to avoid the crowds and to find an essay where I could really show them that I mean business. But it turns out I don't actually think that they can influence your application, and the fine jewelry sales associate was actually limited in the other kind of categories that she could show me. So while I was waiting for her, I hopped on to the FSH Wi-Fi and I entered the lottery for the next day. And I did actually wonder if entering the lottery from an Hermès location, like maybe they can track what Wi-Fi you're connected to, would help. But spoiler alert, it didn't seem to matter at all. But I did end up getting this silver ring with her, which I love, and she helped me get my shawl. And while I don't necessarily think these items were absolutely necessary, I did learn from her what essays can and cannot do. She was kind of like dropping hints to me, like saying, oh, I can't see it whether or not you've entered the lottery appointment. And I feel like these essays must get these questions all the time based on all these videos like this where we share our own experiences. So maybe Hermès is changing what their system looks like, their CRM system. But I'm just sharing with you what she told me, and hopefully this will dispel some myths out there. But eventually she handed me off to the leather goods essay. And by leather goods, I mean like SLGs, not like leather appointment essay. And I actually clicked with her more in the end. And if I had to do it all over again, I probably just would have gone straight to the leather goods section because there was just more stuff I was interested in. And also another tip, SLGs flow like water in Paris. And it could definitely be that I was just there at a very particular time, like right before the Olympics. So maybe like there was just a lot of stock going on in FSH. So take that with a grain of salt, that timing is kind of everything. But to me, it just seemed like there was a lot of stock in the shelves and in the drawers that they were pulling out from. And also, here's another tip, that to-go wallets in Paris are considered SLGs. So you actually don't need a leather appointment to ask for a Constance to-go wallet or a Kelly to-go wallet. But obviously they might not always have them for you. So in my mind, knowing this information before I left, I thought to myself that if I went all the way to Paris and just got a to-go wallet, then it would all be worth it. And I did on day 1, so I was a happy camper already. I forget if I shared this in the other video, but as I was getting my gold on gold wallet, she did say that there was a green and gold one in the back, and it literally took all of my strength to not go home with that one too. But I wasn't about to sink $10,000 in wallets on my first day on the ground. But I gotta tell you, it haunts me to this day that I left it there. And of course, I asked at the appointment desk if there were any cancellations available, and I got the no, but try back later smile. So I feel like my trip to the FSH store was really to establish pre-spend. But I also made sure to update my profile. It turns out that I was in their system from like 6 years ago. However, for some reason I didn't have my email attached to it. So my tip would be to go to a store, any store, and make sure that you have a profile. Probably have some pre-spend would be good. And also make sure that your email is attached because they do ask you for your email when you're applying in the online lottery system. So like that's a way for them to make that connection to your profile. When I entered waiting for my essay, my email hadn't been attached My email was only attached after I started making purchases. So basically on day one, when I applied, I didn't have an email on file. Like I said, I no longer believe that essays have the power to guarantee you a lottery appointment. I tried, and I spent over $5,000 with one essay. And unless she was super discreet about it, I had no signals of a guarantee for the next day. So it's possible that maybe if you're like working with someone way higher up, they have the power to like get you in, but I wasn't seeing that with the normal essays that I was working with. So on the night of day one, I did not get an acceptance email, and so I thought to myself I would just have to try the next day. On the topic of day two, given that I didn't have a leather appointment lined up, I planned that I would go out to a nice breakfast. However, I made sure that I was in my hotel room connected to the Wi-Fi ready to apply. I put in my application, and at that point I had about $7,000 under my pre-spend belt. As I was filling out the form and I got to the part of the webpage that asks for your email, I don't know, something just clicked in my mind and I just knew I was going to get an appointment. I don't know why. I think it's because in my mind I was like, this is the missing link that I didn't have from yesterday. But I put in my email and I clicked submit. I confirmed it in my email inbox, and then I just went about my day. I then headed into a cab to go to the Sever store and try my luck there just as a walk-in. And it was such an awful experience. The fact that the Olympics were coming to town made like all the streets a mess, so everything was blocked off. It was raining. I was in this cab. The cab driver like got pulled over by the cops and was getting a ticket. My meter was running. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I was literally in that cab for an hour to go from basically like Place Vendôme down to Sèvres, which would have been maybe, I don't know, a 30-minute walk on a good day. But it was just a mess. So by the time I went to Sèvres, I was like in such a bad mood. However, I do think timing is everything. I spoke with one essay in the costume jewelry section because I wanted to look at some bracelets. They didn't have my size. So then I asked to be kind of transferred to the person who could help me with wallets. Because again, I wanted to see if they had any more to-go wallets. He said he had none, but he also said to check back the next day. And I suspect that he saw my profile, because I think he did reference the fact that I got the constants to go the day before. So he was like, try back tomorrow because you just got your constants. So they're definitely scoping you out when you're asking to see these items. And when I asked about a leather appointment, he pointed me to the leather appointment desk and he didn't even walk me over. He was just like, yeah, it's over there. Because I'm sure they get a lot of that in the end. So I kindly asked the woman if she had any availability due to cancellations, and she said she would check, and to my surprise, she told me to wait on the side. She didn't reject me outright. So I sat in the chair next to her podium, and I just like waited. I would have waited forever there, but basically, another lady offered me a coffee, so I accepted a coffee. She then came back to me and asked for my phone number. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting in. This is so exciting. And I was so nervous. And I started to look at what other people were getting offered. And that was actually really fun because it kind of allowed me to see what they had in stock and like how people were taking it and how the appointments were run. So there was one woman who was offered in a 2 pica tin, but it looked like she wasn't very excited about it. So like, I don't know, she looked a little wishy-washy. And what's also funny is that there was a woman even ahead of me who also got an appointment. So imagine that, 2 of us got walk-in leather appointments. It was around noon on a rainy Tuesday at Sèvres. So I sat at my table waiting for my essay to come. I was offered more beverages, so I asked for sparkling water, and I was just like looking at this glass displays ahead of me, like just thinking about, oh my gosh, what do I want to ask for? And there were so many great green bags. I'll try to put some pictures here. I was like literally, my stomach was in knots, very nervous about it. And then a very lovely essay came over and we started the conversation. I told her I was very excited to be there and I was so happy to have a leather appointment. But then I launched into what it was I was looking for and what my decision criteria was. And as you know, I'm a very analytical person, so I had like basically a decision tree laid out for her that she could follow for like my number 1 choice. And then if not that, then this, if not this, then that. So I had probably like 5 levels for her to go through until like we were just exhausted. So my tip would actually be to put your wish list in pictures or on web pages and save them to your phone, because as I was talking to her, I could just show it to her. And in my mind, she was kind of both getting the verbal and also the visual aspects. So it could help her out too. And in fact, she actually asked to take a picture of the pictures on my phone so that she could go back and reference them later. After a little while, she came back with a box and she said that there were no iconic bags. And she was even a little playful. She was like, do you want to guess what it is? And so I did actually try to take some educated guesses, but it turns out it was a mini Halston in baton and gold hardware. And while that is such a beautiful bag, I literally have a bag, my In the Loop 18, which is in the same colorway, baton and gold hardware. I took it out, I tried it on. It's kind of like fussy, so she was like doing all the straps and everything, putting it together for me. It really had been untouched before. And I put it on and I was just like so undecided, like it wasn't singing to me. And I was in my head thinking, is this my one chance for a bag? What do I do? What if I don't get a chance, etc., etc. So I think I actually did agree to buy it. But as we were talking, like just something in my gut didn't sit right. And I just stopped in my tracks because I knew I would regret it. And then I actually used the same phrase that saved me in New York in my prior video. And I just asked her, well, do you have anything in Cypress? And she looked at her phone and she was like, all I have is a mini Lindy. And I was like, what? And what's funny is in my whole spiel to her, I told her I'm not like a Pinkerton or a Lindy type person. And I just like did a whole 180 on that. And I was like, oh, but it's in my favorite color, so I would love to see it. So she brought it out. And as soon as she unboxed it and showed it to me, and I'll take it out for some eye candy, I was in love. I was like, there is no way this is not coming home with me. As you can see, it is in Cypress, my absolute favorite color. And this is actually the Mini Lindy 2, which is the new size. I'll do a whole video about this. So the feeling I got seeing this, I now know that I'm the type of person that is totally led by color. It doesn't matter what type of bag, really. It's like, do you have my color, yes or no? And then I was one happy camper. So I went back to my hotel and it was just love at first sight. And I would have been happy if this was the only bag that I went home with. To me, it would have been a total success. And another bonus tip that I would give to you, and I heard this on someone's video, but I honestly can't remember who, but I thought it was really solid advice, and it was dress for the bag that you want. I love this advice because I do think that these essays are making snap decisions about you, and anything that they can grab onto to like learn about you, they will. So I went in, I had one of my Cypress bracelets on, and I feel like I could just prove my point and say, look, I love Cypress, I have it in this, I have it in the belt, this needs to come home with me. So it proved the point that I'm not a reseller, even though it was a bag that I said I wasn't interested in. It was like the Cypress that was totally stealing my heart. But I do have to share as another tip that with leather appointments, unlike the US, after you get a bag, they are giving you that hard sell. So I feel like I haven't been sold to like that in a while, because usually it's like pre-spend, and then in the US when you get a bag, it's like your reward for pre-spend. It's the opposite in Paris. We got that bag and she was ready to take me around to that whole store. And mind you, I only had an hour left because I had to go to my Ritz high tea appointment. So I was like, man, we gotta go. So I was like, all right, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And what's interesting is I also feel like she knew how much I spent the day before. So because the Mini Lindy is actually not that expensive there, she knew she had a couple thousand euros that she could probably squeeze out of me. And she did. So we went to ready to wear. And that's where I got my t-shirt. I got a belt. And she was trying to throw anything and anything at me. She's like, oh, you like green? Here's a green scarf. And I had just bought my other scarf. And she was like, I don't know, showing me some like scarves that were a little too fussy and not my style. But literally like she was just trying to like ram in as much spend as she could. So I did end up taking the ready to wear piece and the belt, and then I was on my way. So in summary for day 2, it did teach me that walk-in leather appointments are totally possible. And it just has to do literally with luck of the draw. They didn't know anything about me. It's not like my profile was up. It was literally just that there were like 2 spots left when I asked. So it is possible. I didn't even have anything like to show that I had bought, and none of the other essays like walked me over. So I do think it's luck of the draw. I do think it was helpful for me to have pictures. And when I asked about when cancellations were common, I was actually told mostly in the morning because people, I guess during the night, just don't show up. And also way in the afternoon when people might fly out and they don't bother showing up. So keep that in mind, but in the later afternoon ones, there probably aren't any Quota Bags available. And so after that, I enjoyed my high tea at the Ritz. I went to Hermès to buy my beautiful Be My Love rings. I enjoyed a lovely meal by myself at a nearby cafe of steak frites. I went home, I started to pack, I called my husband and we were just chit-chatting. And then I checked my phone for email. And then I saw the email that I had scored a leather appointment for the next day.